Have you reached out to him?
Oh, of course not, except through this program to wish him well and to give him what we call in Hebrew a refuah shlema, a complete recovery. Our thoughts are with him. The thoughts of all Americans, regardless of political party, are with him and his wife. This is not the time to be thinking seriously about the 25th Amendment. The 25th Amendment is supposed to be invoked only in cases of incapacity, which means inability to govern, unconsciousness, coma, that kind of thing. He can govern while recovering from coronavirus. God forbid he would have to be intubated or he'd have to go into a respirator. That would be a very, very different matter. But at this point in time, he is the president. He will remain the president. But the two issues that we have to think about just for the future is what would happen, hypothetically, if he could not govern. Two issues. One, who would take over until January 20th? And second, what if he could not run for president? If for some reason the decision was made that he was not able to run, how would the Republican Party be able to substitute a nominee for him? It would not automatically be the vice president of the United States. There is no constitutional barrier to the Republican Party coming up with a new approach and picking an entirely new candidate to run. They could pick any ticket literally up to the end. Now, state by state, there may be restrictions, and one would have to look into whether there are state restrictions, whether it's too late to put other people's names on the ballot. These are questions that we should be thinking hard about, because the one thing we don't want is a crisis to occur on the eve of the election and not knowing what the options are for the Republican Party and for the election itself.
Well, he's absolutely getting all the care he needs at the White House. And in reference to your earlier comment, I would take that reports that he's symptomatic with a grain of salt. I looked at that. That was from the New York Times. There was a couple of people that interacted with him at Bedminster that their impression was that he looked like he had cold symptoms and looked sleepy. So I talked to the White House earlier this morning, and it was reported that the president was asymptomatic. And so I would say that the president is asymptomatic at this time, so is the First Lady. And that is good news, because the vast majority of the people that fall into the president's category, being 74 years old and having no other comorbidities, no heart disease, no pulmonary disease, no immunocompromise, no diabetes, things of that nature, they recover 99.5% or better of those people recover spontaneously. Most of them never get symptoms at all, and the ones that do get very mild symptoms. But that being said, I think as far as treatment goes right now, there's options out there on the table. I don't think they'll go so far as to use something like remdesivir right now. That's an IV medication that would probably be used if he starts developing symptoms, and there may be a short fuse to pull that if he does start getting symptoms. But they might go with hydroxychloroquine, which the president's had before when he took it prophylactically when he was exposed previously, and we know that he didn't have a negative reaction to that. So they could use a treatment dose of that. Because that would be fairly safe. They could also use zinc and vitamin D. They could use azithromycin, the Z-Pak. He's had those before, and he has never had a negative reaction to those. Or they could use the inhaled or nebulized steroids, which have been found to be of some value and are pretty harmless otherwise. So they have some options out there if they want to go ahead and start treating him now in his asymptomatic form. And if he gets symptomatic, they'll get more aggressive with the treatment. But he's got a great medical team at the White House. I oversaw that team for about 14 years. They can do anything that needs to be done. And if they need to extend that care to Walter Reed, they can certainly do that.
I think he's one of the hardest working people I've ever seen in my life. So I believe that he'll do whatever he can. Hopefully, we can only pray that he doesn't get very symptomatic or something, that he just, but he's a fighter in everything he does. And I believe he's still going to be, I would take him any day over any leader in history, even if he is to do whatever he can do, because he makes such great decisions. And I'm sure that he'll make himself available in one way or another, and he'll do the best he can with the cards he's dealt right now.
Well, we've heard from a couple of people who've talked to the president last night and today, and they say, the president, as Mark Meadows said, has mild symptoms. He's feeling a little run down, but otherwise doing okay. What we're seeing from the White House, though, John, is a campaign to try to reassure the American people, to reassure the country that they have it under control, that though the president might have tested positive for COVID-19 and he and the First Lady are staying in the residence right now, that he continues to govern and continues to really lead this White House and this administration. In fact, as you said, we heard from Chief of Staff Mark Meadows just a short time ago. He came out to the North Lawn to talk to reporters, where he had this to say about how the president's doing.
The president and the First Lady tested positive for COVID-19. They remain in good spirits. The president does have mild symptoms, and as we look to try to make sure that not only his health and safety and welfare is good, we continue to look at that for all of the American people. He continues to be not only in good spirits but very energetic. We've talked a number of times this morning. I got the 5 or 6 things that he had tasked me to do, like I do every single morning, and he is certainly wanting to make sure that we stay engaged. I think the other thing that is critically important, the doctors continue to monitor both his health and the health of the First Lady. His first question to me this morning is how's the economy doing? How are the stimulus talks going on Capitol Hill? A number of us in the core team of the White House continue to get tested on a daily basis, like we have been.
So Chief of Staff Meadows saying the president is continuing to keep him busy. He also said that they have a mitigation plan in place to make sure that not only to make sure the government continues to move forward in order to keep things for the American people moving forward. Now, Meadows was also asked about what kind of treatment the president was undergoing. If you'll recall, John, the president's touted hydroxychloroquine and the regimen, including that many times in the past. He also admitted to taking it as a prophylactics in the past. So Meadows was asked about that, but he said he wouldn't get into any of the treatments that the president is undergoing right now, but he is under the care of his doctor, who is at the residence with him.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.